let's look at the three key aspects that led to Kaizer Chiefs beating Polokwane City by 1-0. Remember to subscribe to the channel for more South African football content analysis. Let's start with how Kaizer Chiefs were trying to use Gaston Sireno coming from the left-hand side and inverting and essentially just becoming a double 10. And by him inverting into midfield, he was creating the space down the left side channel whereby Bradley Cross would then be able to make a run down that side. But Sireno was not just fixated on being a double 10, because sometimes he would be the one who would move wide and they would see Bradley Cross inverting into midfield. And this is where it kind of became problematic, because if you look at this clip, for example, you see that Cross is moving out, which means, as a rule of rotation, Sireno is now supposed to be moving in there. But no, Sireno decides that he's going to stay outside. So now Cross is looking at him, dude, you're supposed to go into that space, because Duba has basically vacated that space and now he's going to need someone to combine with. So Cross moves out, but Sireno wants to come deep and collect the ball. So he does, he collects the ball. But now what we end up seeing is that with this, it's going to become a recurring theme of how the other players around him were then being affected by him just having a free role from the left-hand side and not necessarily being a 10 who has a free role, because if you're a 10, then you're moving around. Usually you have a huge space, but if you're playing two 10s, then they end up running into each other. Or if you are doing everything that you want and you are not exercising any, okay, we are rotating as a team, but you are rotating as you please because you want the ball, that kind of becomes problematic. But the other key to this puzzle was Duba's movement. So if you look at Duba, he's not central at all. And this is not just for Duba. We've seen Hlongwane when he was playing on Sunday against Stellenbosch. He wasn't central at all. We've seen Favio Silva when he was played there in that position. His starting position, he also starts in a position like this. First of all, he will drop to go and play the ball, but then when he's coming onto the ball, he's coming from the left-hand side. And the idea from the coaches, you see it in this clip, is since defenders are facing the side where the ball is coming from, now Duba can make a run into the box while the defenders are not even looking at what he's trying to do. And this, theoretically is supposed to work. I think there's just something that has not clicked yet to allow our strikers to make those late runs into the box. Because I think you'll remember one of the things that made Castillo, although he wasn't a striker, for him to shine so much, it's because he was very good with making those late runs into the box. And I'm foreshadowing because the goal is something that is related to this. But we move. Because if you also look now at what was happening, is that Kaizer Chiefs were using their width. And the reason why they were using their width so much is because in football, you need to have width. Someone must give you width. You have to stretch the pitch, right? You can't just say, we'll have a lot of midfielders, we'll play 6 midfielders. But teams will just put a block of 4-4-2, and then they'll have people blocking all the passing lanes in the middle. Even if you are kings of tiki-taka, if a team just presses you with the 5-3-2 and then they are congesting the midfield, they're going to force you to go wide. So if you don't have anyone who's wide, then how are you going to find gaps in the defensive line? Because I heard a lot of people complaining, why is Lilepo staying on the line? Since Lilepo arrived at Chiefs, that's one thing that he does. He stays on his line, and most of the times when he receives the ball, he's on his own. Why? Because he is out and wide, and usually when teams are defending, they will stay compact and closer to their goal and protect the central area. So if you have a person who's wide, that makes defenders think twice. Do I have to go and mark that person, or do I stay here? And that thinking in football at the highest level, while you are thinking, things happen. And we will see here evidence of that. So you can see on top of your screen, there is Lilepo and then there's the left back of Polokwane City. You see now what has happened. He's now left that huge gap which can now be exploited by someone. But the secondary thing now is that also, since he's keeping him on the left-hand side and there's that huge gap, Mtusha Balala could easily just run into that space if they pass him the ball. But also Lilepo himself has created space that he can now run into. And as you can see here, he's now running into that space. He combines with Sireno and then they take a shot. How are we going to combine and create that space if we're all close together? I got frustrated because I saw people busy complaining about this. I'm like, but guys, it's literally the way that's going to help the team to play in the first place. So, yeah. But we move because the next thing that we need to look at is Sereno's rotation. Now, remember, we said Sereno was on the left and his basic thing is rotating with cross, right? Cross goes in, Sereno stays out. Sereno stays out, cross goes in, cross goes out, Sereno, you know. But now, as you can see once again, Sereno is now on the side where you expect Umdusha Balala to be at, rotating with Abo Munyane because Munyane was the one who was pushing into that right hand side half space, or even Ucele, or even Ulilebo. But now he has gone from one side of the pitch and has gone to the other side, which means now Umdusha Balala was found shaking and moving around because you see now Sereno is rotating into that false nine position and now is rotating into every other position. And with him trying to do so much, Umdusha Balala ended up being lost in that game and you just didn't see what he was doing because ubhizi umuntu ula. You're trying to be here, he's here. You're trying to be there, he's there. So now when it's like you're avoiding him and trying to get the ball, and then it just doesn't work. And this is not a bashing Sereno video, but he's a senior player and he can do better because I think that when we had an interview with some fans with Eboho, Kukos Nation Fan TV, he was saying that maybe it's because he's not used to having a limited free role, but the thing of having a free role, it works, but you really have to not and then violate the space of other kids. But here's another thing that we're talking about: Sereno staying too long on the ball. Release the ball right now. No, he goes in, and later on he passes the ball. I just don't understand why that happens. Which brings us to Oximteto, and I start with a heat map of Oximteto. Do you see where he was? KZ Chiefs are scoring to the right of your screen, and that is Oximteto. That's where he was concentrated. The red, that means that's where he was for the most part, and then, you know, where there isn't his part, then it tells you where he was and where he wasn't. Now, when we look at Oximteto, a lot of people start complaining about, oh no, he misplaces passes. We will address that. But first of all, I want us to look at one most important aspect of the game. So this is Kaizer Chiefs, and this is Oximteto staying back while they're attacking. Now, Chiefs have lost the ball. You see Cross is out of position. You see Monyane is out of position. Who is in front of defenders? Oximteto is there as the first ball is played out. Umteto is there to make sure that the attack that Polokwane City are trying to start does not materialize. Once again, the ball is won by Polokwane City. Cele heads the ball. Umteto is there to clean up. You have Ucele here once again. He's about to take a shot. He loses the ball. Look who tracks back to try and cover. It's Mteto. Once again, you have Umyane who's out of position. You have Cross who's out of position. And then we have Umyane takes a shot. And now Polokwane are trying to catch Chiefs on a quick counter. You see clearly the left back and the right back are out of their positions. But who's there to make sure that that doesn't happen? Lilepo is trapped back. But you also have Mteto being deep. Again, they are trying to start a counter. Mteto is making sure that they don't go to the side where they wanted to go. They switch sides while the team recovers. The ball is played long. Aiden McCarthy is there. And now look at the plan of Polokwane City. They had 5 players who were ready to attack the ball. And how many players did Chiefs have? 4. Because the plan for Polokwane was to beat Chiefs in transition. But if you're going to have someone who's going to get to those second balls before everyone else, then you are going to be able to do things like this and stop those counters before anything could happen. So Umchita might not be fancy. Umteto might not be doing the things that some people see Cele do, which is very nice. He's very good. He's very good to watch. But what it does, he cleans up the mess of everyone. Everything that Abombunyane, they get freedom to go forward because they know someone is covering. Ufrosla, nah, it was the same thing. He was able to go forward because Ox is there covering for them. We obviously still have things to talk about with him because here, once again, he wins the second ball and then he loses it immediately. And then this is him again trying to play that forward pass. The ball is lost. but look who recovers, him. So this is what Nabi must address, obviously. Mate, do the simple things, right? Clean up the mess and don't try any fancy passes. Just pass the ball to the closest person, and then, it's going to be easier like that. Because I feel like if it tries too much, then that's where people are going to be. But if it does its clean job, then people will not be talking so much. But again, we move to the second half. The gaps were still being created because Lilepo is holding his width. The problem is the ball comes to him, and then they are too slow in exploiting those gaps because, as you can see, the left back is staying with Lilepo. There's a space behind the defense, but Chiefs players are not quick enough to play that ball. Again, when they get a chance to play the ball there, it doesn't happen. Here's a second problem with Chiefs. You have Lilepo on the right, who's now cutting into his left foot. The first problem you have Uduba running towards Lilepo, trying to play the ball. Who is in the box for that cross? But number two, Lilepo, since is right-footed, his cross is not gonna be powerful by any stretch of imagination. And worst part, there isn't even someone in the box. Which brings us to the subs of Undlovu coming on for Ucele and Umodi coming on for Sereno, which were long overdue, right? So you have here now Ukros inverting because remember when Sereno was there for the most part, he was the one who was playing like a second 10. Now you have Ukros, a left back, yes, inverting into midfield to play. Sometimes you'd see him alongside Umteto, but sometimes he would even push and become a second 10. But what this does, look at what this does. As he inverts and he gets into the midfield, it leaves Umodi on the right-hand side, on the left-hand side, free with the ball, and he can now take on a defender because there's a huge space that has been opened because a defender had to shift around to go close him down. And now Chiefs can exploit that space because now they had Undlovu who could make those forward runs. And here is another sub where people were getting angry at the stadium saying, why is Chiefs bringing on a defender while they are losing, while they are trying to get a goal? And I said this, it doesn't mean just because you're bringing on a defender, you're about to defend. Think of a profile of a player. What kind of a player is Frosler? Frosler is a creative player. Frosler is even played at some point as a defensive midfielder, So he's comfortable on the ball. He's going to give you more numbers in the midfield, but he's also very capable of going forward. But another thing I liked about Frosler from this game, you will see here that he has an understanding with Lilepo. Look at him. You see that he's tracking back and he sees that Lilepo is already on the right of him, so he stops and then he makes a run back inwards, which will mean now Lilepo will be free to receive the ball. But also with the same scanning, he would also be able to be the one who's wide and allow Lilepo to be in those half spaces and make those runs between the left back and the left center back. Again, here he's playing as a double 10. He drifts into midfield. He takes a defender with him. See a defender coming with him. Now, since that defender has come with him, he can now play the pass wide. It just wasn't accurate because now you see that with that one pass, had it been accurate, you have eliminated a whole 2 players, and now Polokwane would be left to defend with only 3 players. So again, not all defenders come in to defend. And then it doesn't work as planned. Marco now gets injured. Marco comes on for Cross, who seemed to have been cramping. And Marco also comes in and he basically does now the opposite of what Cross was doing. You see this thing, okay, the principle is the same. You're going to give us width, someone. It's not even you're going to give us width. Someone must hold the width and someone must be in the half spaces. Before Cross went out, it was him who was in the half space. It was Modi who was wide. Marco comes in, the principle changes now. Who stays wide? Now Marco is the one who holds width, and now you have Frosler just lacking and being ready to make a late run into the box. And you can clearly see this. This is the 75th minute, and they are playing the ball. And once again, since the defender is worried about Marco being free and he can make and play across, he's facing and focused on him, which means there's a gap behind. And Undlovu, seeing that the defender is more focused on Marco and his body position, the right back, is ready to go to Marco, he can now find that pass in that half space and then try to attack. But then Umodi was sleeping. This is why, by the way, Chiefs needs a striker who's also going to be able to navigate how to work and operate inside the box. For the goal, same thing. Marco is holding his width. You have Frosler just waiting outside the box, holding and waiting to see what happens. Now, Ushaivala, he passes the ball to Modi. Frosler holds. He doesn't run in like people were saying, oh, you must come in so that we can play. No, hold your width. So then the ball comes across. He's making that late run. He tries to cross it. It doesn't happen. But now, Undlovu, being a box-to-box midfielder, understands what to do on both ends of the boxes. He holds, he stands still, and then the ball comes to him, and then he just smashes it, and then Kaizer Chiefs win the match. After that, it was just about keeping the game, and Polokwane were coming at Chiefs, but they were never going to be able to do that because Chiefs, one of the most important things that they've done this season is not necessarily be defensive, but they've improved in their defensive side. And that has to do with how they are playing Umthetwa, and Aiden McCarthy has also helped a lot. But it's not just individuals, it's how they've changed the system. Didn't even talk about Ungcobo and the fact that with Umthetwa being the one who's a single pivot, like a single six now, it seems like they are now giving Umthetwa, Umbata, Undlovu, no, Cele, before he was taken off, they are playing more like eights. Maui 8 basically, just a box-to-box midfielder so that we can have enough cover, must defender, but at the same time, we can have two people going forward to attack. We can make them do that and go up and down the pitch because there's enough depth. Ucele Maikatala, ukhona uNdlovu ebhentshini. If kukuthi uMdusha Balala gets tired, there is Chislet, there is Ungcobo. So there is depth and they are not worried about uzokathala, so they make those changes. Have you subscribed? Do make sure to subscribe. Share it. Share the video so that we can share the knowledge with people, so that we can watch the match not with our feelings but with understanding. Thank you so much for watching, and check out this video. YouTube thinks you might like it. Thank you so much for watching, and subscribe. Bye bye.